Selamat siang. Welcome back to another Bali COVID-19 update. This is April 25th, 2022, and my name is Bruce. And I'm back. Yeah, I haven't posted anything, and I apologize for not answering comments. The internet where I was staying was not very good, and so I kind of just gave up on it. The homestay itself was great. I loved it. But the internet, well, that left something to be desired. And so I will get to comments today, I hope. I'm still pretty tired from the drive this morning. At 72, making these drives across the island, especially that drive through Bedugul, down Gikit, that is still not my favorite drive. In fact, it's my least favorite drive in Bali, because people just drive like idiots. I got close to being wiped out several times with people coming around blind curves way too fast and ending up in the middle of my lane and pushing me almost off the mountain. But enough of that complaining. It was nice to see David. I spent a couple of days hanging out with him and talking about things. David is a regular viewer here, subscriber. And there was no cooking video the other day because I didn't have the internet and I wasn't able to finish it. And so everything is just, it's coming back. It was a vacation and it was nice. It was nice to get around. You know, one of the things when you're here for a long, long time like me is you get into a pattern, a rut, we could say, and you forget just how cool, how great this island can be. And so getting out and hanging out with people and talking to people really, the Balinese people, Indonesian people, pumped in their business, seeing people back, although Sanur is still relatively quiet compared to a place like Canggu, and that was what I heard from people over and over again. Yeah, it's great, people are coming back, but it's still slow here in Sanur. And I got to see some of my kids and my grandson. So it was a good trip, but tiring. I could use a couple of days rest. And so I have stories that I was going to upload yesterday, but I couldn't. And so we're going to do them today and get back into the swing of things. And first, what about the weather? Well, the weather was fantastic, and it still is good. There is basically no wind at all. It is 0.1 kilometers per hour. Just absolutely no wind, and 31.4 degrees and 60% humidity. And when I woke up this morning, I checked the humidity, it said 94%, rain soon, but whew, no rain. And so good. If you want to come to Bali, this is a good time to come now. Okay, let's take a look at the numbers. The numbers are good. National new cases, 382. National recoveries, 2,168, and national deaths down to 33. That's good. Bali new cases, 18. Yeah, now this is, of course, the weekend, so numbers are usually lower after a weekend. But Bali recoveries, 19, and Bali deaths, 1. We're getting into the last week of Ramadan, and of course, there have been worries about if the cases are going to rise, and so the first story is related to that. Government confident Mudik will not trigger another COVID-19 wave. All right, I like that. This confidence is it's going to take me time to get into this again. This confidence is partly based on a recent survey that revealed most people in Java, the country's most populous island, and Bali have already achieved immunity to coronavirus either through natural infection, or vaccination. National Task Force spokesperson Pak Wiku, talked about many times, said that there might be a slight increase in transmissions after Mudik is done and after the Eid al-Fitr holidays, which will fall in between May 1st and May 8th, but he stressed that the increase would not be as high as in previous years. He said, as long as there's no new dangerous COVID-19 variants, we will be safe. Okay, there's some confidence. Over the past 2 years, all of the country's waves of coronavirus transmission have occurred following public mobility during these long holidays, such as Christmas and New Year in 2020, when 10 million people were traveling all over the archipelago, and we had Alpha, remember Alpha? Wow, that was a long time ago. And the numbers rose by 122%, peaking at 14,500 cases a day in late January 2021. Then we had the big surge in July last year, about 6 weeks after 2 million people or so went back to their hometowns to celebrate Eid al-Fitr after Mudik, and that was the Delta variant, and cases reached more than 56,700 a day, and a 300% increase. And high mobility around last year's end of the year holiday season, when nearly 8 million people were traveling around the country, helped fuel the spread of the highly contagious Omicron variant, and that triggered the third wave of infections for Indonesia. The health minister, Pak Budi, said that he is upbeat about the country's infection trajectory after the public holiday, arguing that the main cause of the country's previous coronavirus waves of infection were not due to holiday in itself, but rather the emergence of new variants. Minister Budi also cited the government's latest Sero survey, which was conducted in March, that said around 99% of the population in Java and Bali have some form of immunity to COVID-19, either through infection or vaccination, or both. In my case, Pak Budi said in a press conference last week that the high level of neutralizing antibodies could significantly reduce the risk of hospitalization and deaths among COVID-19 patients. This leads us to believe, he said, that this year's Mudik can go smoothly and will not cause any harm to our society. Despite being upbeat about the situation during the Eid al-Fitr holidays, he called on the public to maintain health protocols, particularly when traveling. And what are those health protocols? Social distancing, right? Doesn't happen here. Wearing a mask, that is becoming less and less, as I noticed on my trip here through the island. Washing your hands, almost nobody does that. Using the PL app, I saw one place in Sanur that had it. It was a restaurant. You didn't have to do it. David and I did it just to try it out, and it worked. Wow. It said, okay, you're at Massimo's restaurant, Italian restaurant in Sanur in Jalandano, Tamlingan. Really nice food. Nobody made us do it. And so the PL app that the government keeps going on and on about, I've had to use it once. And we need to remember as well that there are high numbers of cases in other places like Hong Kong and China and South Korea and Taiwan. And I'm going to talk about Taiwan later on in this video. More on e-gatherings. Ministry issues circular on 2022 e-gathering ban amid COVID-19 pandemic. The Minister of Home Affairs issued a circular on COVID-19 cases prevention during the 2022 e-gathering. First, the gathering may be held based on the level of COVID-19 restrictions in each region set by the Home Affairs Ministry, and that's for level 3, 2, and 1 in Java and Bali. And this also applies to gathering activities in other regions such as Sumatra, Nusa Tenggara, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Maluku, and Papua. Secondly, the circular regulates the maximum amount of guests that may attend a gathering at 50% for those areas at level 3, 75% for those at level 2, that's us in Bali, and 100% for regions under level 1, PPKM. Third, for gatherings over 100 attendees, food and beverages must be prepared to take out, and there must not be buffet service. So you're not allowed to eat at the gathering. You can get your food box, and I'm sure you've had these before, and take it home with you. The SE said activities involving people eating together or removing their mask must be avoided as it poses COVID-19 transmission. I wonder if these ministers ever get out into the street and see exactly what's going on with the level of mask wearing these days. And as always, lastly, the minister reminded people to maintain strict health protocols. Ain't happening anymore, sorry. Big news, right, is the end of Ramadan's coming up, and Lebaran, and Mudik, and what else? The cooking oil scandal. So let's talk about the cooking oil scandal. Jokowi bans export of cooking oil and its raw materials starting next week. Well, I did that the other day, so starting this week on April 28th, on Thursday. The ban will last for an unspecified period. The president came up with this decision and announced it after meeting with a number of leaders to see what people's needs are. He said last Friday, "I'll continue to monitor and evaluate this policy so that the availability of cooking oil in this country is abundant and at affordable prices." And there's a lot of new stories out about this today, and I'll talk about those tomorrow. Previously, he argued that soaring prices in cooking oil were attributable to increased prices in the commodity at global markets, and thus domestic producers resorted to exports. The government, however, was still striving to suppress the price by distributing direct cash assistance, or BLT, to the community and granting subsidies to producers of bulk cooking oil in order to implement the highest retail price policy. The president said, "We have reviewed that subsidies for producers that have been running for several weeks are not yet effective. At the markets, I see that a lot of bulk cooking oil is not priced in accordance with predetermined net. That means there's indeed foul play." And the president further supported efforts taken by the AGO, Attorney General's office, and ordered them to keep investigating the cooking oil mafia, another mafia, right? We've had the COVID mafias, quarantine mafias, all sorts of mafias, and now we've got the cooking oil mafia. And the cooking oil mafia has led to the shortage and soaring prices of the commodity in the domestic market. And what about that? Let's take a look at the next segment. DP to summon trade minister over cooking oil fiasco. So the DPR, the House of Representatives in Indonesia, summoned Trade Minister Muhammad Lutfi after Foreign Trade Director General Wisnu Wardana was named a suspect in an alleged graft case of cooking oil, which led to the scarcity and high prices. The Attorney General's office named Lutfi and 3 other high-ranking officials from 3 companies as suspects in the case of alleged corruption in the provision of crude palm oil export facilities. The DPR, the House of Representatives, is planning to question Lutfi with regard to the issue of cooking oil scarcity and internal problems at the ministry which caused the alleged corruption case. According to the House Speaker, Ibu Puan, she said that the DPR supports the legal process that's still underway. She asked the Attorney General's office and other law enforcement agencies to investigate the winning parties involved in the export process, because she said it's caused a cooking oil shortage here and the community has been harmed. This is important for the next story. The community has been harmed. So what does that mean? AGO talks of death penalty in cooking oil mafia case. Right. The Attorney General's office charged the suspects in the cooking oil mafia case with Articles 2 and 3 of the corruption law, allowing it to impose the death penalty. The Deputy Attorney General for Special Crimes explained that investigators could not yet explain whether they would indict and charge suspects with the death penalty because it would relate to how the special criminal case is handled by the AGO. The Deputy Attorney General said that the AGO plans to deal with corruption cases by adopting a new concept. One of its policies is giving severe punishment to perpetrators under certain criteria, including when the country is in a difficult situation, committing a crime when the country is in a difficult situation. He added that if the crime affects large communities and is detrimental to the nation's development, strict action will be taken. These are our concentration. We will definitely take firm action, he said. And let's finish this up with a couple of segments on what's happening around Asia, because this could affect us. Fully vaccinated travelers no longer need COVID-19 tests to enter Singapore starting April 26th, tomorrow. All fully vaccinated travelers entering Singapore via air or sea checkpoints will no longer be required to take a pre-departure test. This is compared to the current measure, which requires those arriving through air or sea checkpoints to take a test within 2 days of their departure for Singapore, just like in Indonesia. According to the Ministry of Health, with this move, it will mean that fully vaccinated and well travelers will not require any test to enter Singapore. The removal of the pre-departure test requirement also applies to non-fully vaccinated children aged 12 and below. And what about non-fully vaccinated adult travelers? Well, The Ministry of Health said that the entry requirement for non-fully vaccinated travelers remains unchanged. Those travelers aged 13 and above must take a pre-departure test within 2 days before departure to Singapore, undergo a 7-day stay-home notice, and take a PCR test at the end of the notice. And so one of the last things holding people up here is that PCR test, right? People don't like getting that thing stuck up their nose. And so Singapore is getting rid of it. And is Indonesia going to go that way? I don't know. I would guess we would have to wait and see how things turn out after Mudik and Eid celebrations are over. But you never can tell. Tonight is Monday night, and there are usually announcements and sometimes big surprises. And here's the last of our segments. Taiwan won't go into Shanghai-like lockdown despite rising COVID-19 cases premiere. In this segment, especially for my Taiwanese friends who watch this channel and subscribe, and thanks very much for that. And I will see some of you tonight. Taiwan won't go into a Shanghai-like lockdown because, according to the premier, the majority of infected cases have no symptoms or minor symptoms. Backed by a high vaccination rate, the government's been promoting the new Taiwan model, learning to gradually live with the virus and avoiding shutting down the economy, unlike in Shanghai. Speaking to reporters, the premier said the government was confident in the steps being taken, and it was fortunate that more than 99% of the cases were either asymptomatic or had mild illness. The premier added that this does not mean we are going to stop taking anti-pandemic measures, and that includes wearing face masks. Face masks will continue to be required. Oh yeah, that's the other last thing, right? So I said the PCR test, the face mask thing. People aren't wearing them. Why do we still have this? The government expects daily cases to reach 10,000 by the end of the month and warned that the peak is likely several weeks off. The premier said more vaccines and rapid tests are on their way to help cope with the uptick in infections and to prepare for the next step in reopening Taiwan. Good news. And to reduce the amount of time those with COVID-19 or their contacts have to spend in quarantine. The government has already cut the quarantine down from 2 weeks, 14 days, to 10 days for all arrivals in Taiwan, and it's considering further reductions as it looks to reopen its borders. And so great, Ann and Kevin, if you're watching this, if you get rid of it, you guys could come to Bali and visit. Wouldn't that be fun? And also Sarah and Tony. And that is it for today. I have to catch up on everything. I kind of forgot where I was. You know, when you do this every day, you know what's going on. And now I've got this break here, and I'm kind of like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I hope to get some video up of the trip to Sanur. It was an interesting trip. There may be some video, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to go over it because I forgot to bring my little card reader. And so I couldn't get the video loaded into my computer very well either. It was my first long trip in a year, and I made a bunch of mistakes when I was getting ready to leave. Okay, if you found this video helpful, useful, informative, enlightening, inspiring, humorous, hilarious, hysterical, non-irritating, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. I will talk about my new schedule tomorrow after I get a chance to get some rest. Okay, thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today. Stay safe, and I will see you tomorrow.